everyone, welcome to Babies with Knives. Today we're going to be doing a character creation for Troubleshooters with Krister Sunderlim up above me. Hello,
Yes, hello.
Krister.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's nice being here.
I'm really excited about this. I'm Alice Peng, aka Lala Twiddle, and below me is Brandon Powers.
Howdy, howdy, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am looking forward to trying this out. The art on the Kickstarter page I find fun and evocative, and just talking to you for a few minutes right beforehand, exactly some of the impressions that I got of the game are apparently what you're working for. So it's working well.
And
Oh,
below
yeah.
Brandon Powers is Mitch Wallace from Penny for a Tale, but today he is representing Helmgast here to facilitate this Troubleshooters character creation. Hey, Mitch.
I'm here for moral support, and I'm gonna be secretly making a villain to thwart everyone's plans in the background.
Mitch, I'd just like to point out, I gave you a much better title than what you said for yourself. Instead of moral support, I said facilitator.
I like
You're an
it.
enabler. Everyone loves the enabler, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, give me some of that good troubleshooters.
Awesome. So, Krister, could you give us a quick elevator pitch about what Troubleshooters is about for people who haven't played it or know anything about it?
Okay, so it's an action-adventure game set in the fictional 1960s. It is, or should I say, Uchronic 1960s? Well, it's not quite like like ours anyway. You know, we haven't. The Concorde is flying like 10 years too early. There's of course a Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, but it's not quite as hot Cold War as it was in the real world. Quite a lot of Eurocentric as well. The game starts in Paris, actually. I have a nice map of it.
Awesome. And so we're going to be doing a character creation today. Could you show everyone what the final character sheet is going to look like? It's kind of unique compared to most character sheets, so I want them to get to see
Yes,
that.
have that too. I mean, it will look like a passport.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
And can
because
we-
this is a game of international travel and mystery, and so of course you have to keep track of your game stats as in a passport.
Have you tried to use it as an actual passport yet?
No.
I might be the first one.
So, quick question about that.
Yes.
We have a printable version that isn't quite form fillable yet, but I'm sure that you guys will make it happen. Yep. And so the printed version is, and there's Brandon showing people how that works. And that's,
Yep.
You're calling that the emergency passport?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Emergency pass.
Because in the real world, when you lose your passport, you go to a consular or you go to an embassy, and then you ask them nice, and you can have an emergency passport so that you can get home. It's usually valid for like one trip or like a month or perhaps a year. And quite often they are just one page. They aren't even the little booklet that you usually get as a passport.
Yeah, I remember, growing up in the 80s and early 90s where like Dungeons and Dragons had their character folio and such, and those were really awesome to get back then. But then as
Yeah.
the internet took dominance, the need for those, drops off. But something like that's a nice, unique thing that I know I would be like, oh, I'm gonna get a couple of those so that we can have them. The game that we're playing will all have passports.
Yeah, in the Kickstarter, we managed to unlock a stretch goal with the international passports. So there will be 5 different covers of them, in addition to the one that I showed you.
Yeesh.
So there
That's
will
gonna
not
be
just be
beautiful.
that one. There will be also one like brown, black, a very much more communist red, and a blue one, and so on. So that will be. I have noticed that if everyone's passport looks like this. They have a tendency to get mixed up.
And so if everyone has a different color, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
from what I understand of this, the impression I got for the game was a bit like Kingsman, the movie, or Mission Impossible, the old Mission Impossibles. And I forget what other movie that I really thought it seemed like when I was getting the pitch before. Brandon, I think you mentioned a few others.
Leverage, Hustle, and Carmen Sandiego are ones that I've been seeing as I've gone through the art and just the general theme of it really made me feel like Carmen Sandiego would be an appropriate character, both in the old 90s, 80s and 90s video games, as well as the Netflix series that's on, which is a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yes, it is, and yeah, that's quite a good inspiration. From the Eurocomic scene, we have like Spirou, of course, Spirou et Fantasio. Do I have? Yes, I have.
Yeah, you usually have it nearby.
Which has been published since the 1960s, I think. This is the 1980s artist which made this one. They have shifted this title from artist to artist. Tintin, of course. Then there is Yoko Tsuno and Gilles Jordan and a lot of others. I could also mention Lupin the Third, actually, the manga and anime.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of said movies or comics and such like that, this is a game you're probably going to want to check out and give a try. So let's jump into that character creation we were talking about. I have for our viewers the first panel of the character sheet, which is going to have a total of 4 panels.
Yes, so this is the description panel and the relations and photo panel. So they will look like this. Let's see if I can get it there.
Doesn't show up too well, sadly. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I have it showing for the emergency passport version that you sent us.
Yep.
So what is the first step to creating a character for Troubleshooters?
The first step is actually to create a team.
Okay.
You do that by discussing the theme of the game that you want to run and what expectations you have.
Alice, what do you want to do? Do you want to be like the Mission Impossible, or do you want to be Harriet the Spy type stuff?
I think that you know me, I think I want to do Mission Impossible or maybe do Kingsman. That sounds fun too.
Oh, the other one that I was this made me think of just because of that European theme is a show with Donald Sutherland, Crossing the Lines.
Oh, yes. Yes, Crossing Lines I like too.
Yeah.
Let's do Crossing Lines.
Okay.
So to anybody who's not familiar with it, Crossing Lines, it was a team of investigators that were from different European nations sent out by The Hague to go out and solve crimes in the European Union. So similar that, we would be, sponsored by some sort of, multinational European agency from countries all over Europe to kind of deal with that East versus West thing that's going on at the moment. Is that with what you're thinking of, Alice?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And these nations that sponsor this organization are from both sides of the Iron Curtain.
Is that what you want?
Yeah,
okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Did you have any nationalities in mind?
I think for me, I'm good with being... Well, let's go to you first, Brandon.
I'm definitely going to go with German.
Okay, East or West?
Probably since we're saying from both sides, I'm going to go for the Eastern side.
Okay.
And that they grew up after the Iron Curtain kind of went up, but don't really buy into a lot of the politics that are coming out at the moment.
Okay.
I
think that I'm going to be Italian.
Okay. Usually we would start the game in a place like Paris, because everyone would know that, and because I have a nice map of it. So I could say that this... okay, here's a suggestion that ties into the future that I actually have in mind of the game. There is an organization called S.C.O.R.P.I.O.
Okay.
Deals with these East versus West relations and troubleshooting. And they also deal with some counterterrorism which is kind of independent of the East and West question. And the reason that they are called S.C.O.R.P.I.O. is because nobody could come up with a good abbreviation that would spell anything and that would be acceptable for all member states. So instead they just went, let's call it S.C.O.R.P.I.O. Okay, that sounds fine in our language as well.
That doesn't smell like horse dung in our language, so therefore we're good. Okay.
We went with the least objectionable rather than what anybody actually wants.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So I think that they are kind of seriously perceived by the smaller nations, but in Europe, but the bigger nations may even regard this as a bit of a joke. So there are kind of an intra-European tension in the organization as well.
So after we've decided our place of birth, where we're from, what do we do next?
Well, we have a good team, I think. A good concept for the campaign. We have good place of birth. Alice, what would you think about your character?
I was thinking that I was once like a pickpocket or con artist, and I was caught, doing cons or doing being on the other side of the law for a while. And they said, well, your talents would be wasted behind bars. We'll give you basically a work release program. You come work with us. And at first, I was probably pretty reluctant and didn't like the work. But as we continue to work together, I started bonding with the team. And now I'm an ex-con artist, now on the right side of the law.
So
Okay.
you're like Catch Me If You Can, Leonardo DiCaprio, but also one of the inspirations in what you provided us is the Rogues, which is kind of a little turn on that same kind of inspiration. So
I think that sounds great. Brandon, what do you have in mind?
I'm looking at somebody who was brought up, trained in the military, doesn't like I said, a lot of the politics, does not really believe in the Eastern doctrine, and is leaving his military. And like you said, it's not that respected by some of the bigger nations, and so a lot of the people that he works with probably look at this as him taking a real downgrade to a joke agency like Scorpio. But for him, he's tired of some of the harder things that he has seen in his career, and so is looking for something that has more life, more hope to it.
That sounds great. And that gives us an opportunity to test something that I usually don't do, which is to make a template from scratch. This game is based on templates that there are about a dozen of, and from these templates, you set them quickly, and then you just do some customization. There aren't any classes per se, but these templates should get you going in like 5 or 10 minutes, really, if you're in a hurry. But they are also very, very easy to make. So, and you can do them. You can make a character without using the templates at all as well.
Okay. You mind if I show the viewers some of the templates later during post-production?
We could do that, and I think that you could start with Cat Burglar, because I think that template fits you very well.
Yeah, I was thinking I could start with Cat Burglar as well. It's not quite the perfect fit, but it works well enough.
Yeah, and we can always customize it a bit later. So we have that's step 1, really. Pick a template, or decide to use your own. Step 2 is to set the skills.
Well, before we move on to 2, I'm just going to read to people what Cat Burglar means. So for Cat Burglar, without hate, without violence, but certainly illegal, that's the life of a cat burglar. But it's also exciting to break into secure sites and come out with small but invaluable stuff without anyone knowing. If you hadn't left a calling, if you leave without, if you can't leave without signing your masterwork after all. Skills. Set the following skills. Before I get into that, we should mention that for anyone who hasn't played this yet or watched an actual play of it yet, this game is based off of rolling D100. Mitch is over there nodding. But so this is going to be based on percentile, and we want to roll under our percentile to succeed. So for skills, set the following skills: security 75%, agility 5, prestidigitation 65, search 65, sneak 65, alertness 45, charm 45, investigation 45, melee 45, subject 45, and vehicles 45, and I'm going to set all other skills to 15. For the template, it also says for abilities that I pick 2 of the following abilities: acrobat, allure, famous, lockpicker, sixth sense, and I ignore any requirements on the abilities as a result. For complications, I pick one of the following complications: amorous, bad reputation, or overconfident. And my vitality is set to 6. I have no additional bonus languages. My gear, I start with lockpicks, a flashlight, binoculars, and I select one of them as my signature gadget. Pick up 2 more gear kits of my choice. I should also mention that in the gear in this game, every piece of gear does something. Isn't that correct, Krister?
Yes, and there are 5 slots for them, so that you can't actually have any more. You can have a lot of more gear kits, but you can only have 5 of them slotted to a character at any one time.
Very cool. What's your favorite of the items?
Race car. It has to be race car.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a sports car.
Oh, there you go. Sports car.
I did like my sports car when I had it, but yeah, that was pretty cool on the character. I think, though, that I found something else that I liked more. I forget right now. And for the last thing on my character template, it provide some suggested plot hooks. So pick one of the preferably plot hooks. For instance, 1 or 2 of do-gooder, I owe you, looking for an adventure, or arch enemy the octopus.
Ooh, the octopus is the evil organization in this world, kind of like Thrush or Spectre or whatever.
So Scorpio versus octopus.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep.
Brandon's going to be making a template from scratch, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's go and talk about that a little bit, and let's jump to skills as you were.
Yes. You just mentioned the skill list for you, so you can just set those skills.
Awesome. I will do that.
And that is on a separate section of the passport.
Yes, I am presenting that to our viewers right now.
Yep.
So while I set my skills, why don't you and Brandon start talking about how to create your
Yes. So let's see if I can get that one up quickly.
Page 15 is making a templateless character. Oh, and there's making templates right there.
Yes. There it is. So making a template-less character. Well, making templates, you have you can either it's basically a template for templates.
Okay.
So you pick a number of skills, 11 of them, and you assign a value to them. 1 will have 75, 4 will have 65, and 6 will have 45, and everything else will have 15. And then when you make a template, you make a list of 5 abilities. You make a list of 3 complications. There is a little formula for setting vitality based on what skills you have.
Now, quick question about that. When he sets his complications and whatnot, is that picked out of a list in the book, or is that something that we can choose?
We have a long list in the book of the complications, and of course description of them and abilities. And similar for gear, you make a list of 3 things, and then you pick 3 or 4 plot hooks. And then when you pick those, then you have your basic template, and then you just follow those instructions to make your character. If you're making a template-less character, you basically do the same thing, but you don't make the list of it. So you start with allocating the skill values to 11 skills. You pick 2 abilities of your choice. You pick 1 complication of your choice. Pick 5 gear hits of your choice, and then we get into plot hooks. The plot hooks is one thing that we should do together. It's not something that you can do separately, but everything else you can do on your own.
Cool. So Brandon, what are you looking at doing right now?
I'm looking through the skills right now, and
Yep.
so many seem good to me.
All right.
By all means, ranged combat is either going to be that pinnacle skill or one of the 4 that follow. Because that's going with the fact that he's very military. So that's one. And what do we have? Probably about 22 skills, I would think.
26, I think.
26. All right. So just going down, contact sounds important. Endurance sounds important. Maybe engineering. I'm just kind of seeing what sparks. Investigation. Maybe secret police or something at one point.
East German stuff.
Machinery might be more what I was thinking of rather than engineering. I wasn't certain on what all it covers. And what does prestidigitation do for you, by the way?
Sorry?
What does prestidigitation do for you?
Sleight of hand.
Prestidigitation is a tongue breaker.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically yes. Sleight of hand and manual dexterity.
So, quick question. So we were mentioning that because it was not fully in line with what my concept was, we could tweak my template. So why don't we show people how to tweak my template? Would that just mean basically taking some numeric swaps? Is that all it is?
Let's see. I have them printed here. So optional step 8.5, which is a little bit ahead, is customizing your character. You can replace 1 or 2 skills you have in your list with 1 or 2 other skills, and the values. You can swap skills around, decrease 1 skill by 10, and increase another skill by 10. You can do that twice, and no skill can start higher than 85.
Okay. So go over that one more time. I can take 10% in what?
You can take 10% from 1 skill and add it to another skill.
Okay.
And you can do that twice.
I can do that twice. Ooh.
Yes, from the same skills if you want to.
Okay. Or I can just swap. I can just swap 2 skills.
Yeah, replace 1 skill from your 1 or 2 skills from that you have in your list, and with two other skills.
Okay.
That you don't have.
And can I mix that? So can I take? Can I switch 1 and take 10% from something else?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, Brandon, sorry, go ahead.
And then after that, we will check vitality and the number of languages, because that depends on your skills.
Okay.
You can replace one ability with one that is not on the list. You can pick you can do the same for the complications.
Okay.
And then you can make things more complicated. You can take an extra complication and get an extra ability. So instead of 2 abilities and 1 complication, you get 3 abilities and 2 complications.
Well, I'm thinking that because I am always okay. So Brandon, what about you? How's that going over there? What are you choosing?
I am narrowing my list down as I am working here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I think I need to cut 1 more skill off my list and then just organize them real quick.
If you have 11 right now, that's good.
Well, I've got ranged combat just put at that 75, and so that's 11 after that. So,
So for me,
you could take one of those 11 skills that you have and customize that into the game if you want.
I cut search, but I kept investigation. So
okay.
That was kind of the decision that I went with.
So for me, what I did, since I'm looking at being a con artist,
Mm-hmm.
I switched my 65 in prestidigitation and my 45 in charm. So now I have 65 in charm and 45 in prestidigitation. I then took I took 10% off of vehicles, dropping that to a 35 and popping my charm up to 75. So I now have a security of 75 and a charm of 75.
Ooh, nice.
And that seems like much more con artist at that point to me.
Yeah.
Because they've got that charm.
Yeah.
All right, so I got my skills. Ranged combat's going to be that 75. The 65 level is going to be my investigation, which is what I have done, being, part of like secret police or something similar. Red tape as well. That's the closest thing that I've got to a social skill, but I know how to get around bureaucracy. And I love scenes like we talked about the Man from U.N.C.L.E. earlier, or in the Jackie Chan movie Rush Hour, where all of a sudden at the end, was it Chris Rock? And he's like, "You never asked if I spoke Mandarin." And that you've got all that character that you believe one thing about, and that they're only going to be good as a hammer or something, and then they have that social skill or that unexpected skill, and so that navigating through red tape, which, let's face it, the Eastern Bloc was famous for having a lot of red tape garbage.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
Engineer and machinery, I also took as those key skills, because that I look at as more what he really wanted to do, and they're valuable skills for military and such, which he served with, but because of he had a certain skills that he was really good with as well, that they took as more valuable. He was really put into being the hammer. In that 45 level, languages, willpower, endurance, melee, contacts, and vehicles. Just a wide assortment of different things that make him good, and then everything else goes into the rest. So I'm really actually happy with those 11 and think that it supports the vision I've got of my character.
Okay. That sounds great. The next step is to pick abilities.
For the 2 abilities I took out of my list, I took Allure and Sixth Sense. So what Allure does, for everyone watching, it's a tier 1, normally requires 65 charm, but as a cat burglar, you can bypass that. I have a 65 charm anyways, I have a 75 in fact. So there's something about you that makes you particularly attractive. It's not limited to beauty, but more about impression and personality. I was actually thinking that I would have been a roper as my con artist role back in the day. So I think that works really well. And for past lovers, you may have a history of past lovers. You may introduce them if you want to, and director may use past lovers you introduced to further comp plot. I was thinking instead of past lovers, that there would be people that I worked with in the past instead, maybe, but that can be tweaked and figured out on how that kind of works. And for story points, I spend 1 story point to get the attention of anyone in the scene and make them less attentive to anyone else. Their task checks to notice something are at -2 pips. Task checks for trying to evade their attention are at +2 pips. So before we continue, pips are an integral game, a mechanic. Percentiles are very common game mechanics in many games. Can you please explain to our viewers how pips work? And please put it in your quick start. I was amazed it was not in your quick start, because that's the one mechanic that you need to know.
Did we forget that? Okay, so, silly me. The idea of pips is a way of adjusting. I mean, in normal basic roleplay games, there is this 10 or plus 10 or minus 10 modifier of your skill. Instead of that, we have these pips instead, and that goes for the ones on the percentile roll. So if you roll, say 92 and you have 75, that would normally be a failure. But if the task is at plus 2 pips, then you compare the 2 of your 92 to the plus 2 of the modifier, and that way you can succeed anyway. Similarly, if a task is minus 2, that's minus 2 pips, and you roll 11, then your task check is a fail.
And that's a very interesting twist.
Also, if you roll double digits, that is a karma roll, and if you fail and have karma, then you have bad karma, and that's usually not fun. Oh, it's fun. It's fun for me as a director, but
yes, that's a very important mechanic to understand, because that's very core to the game. And oh my gosh, though, I rolled like an 2 with a -3 pip during Troubleshooters, I think it was, or something ridiculously low, and I failed because it was like either I rolled a 12 or an 2, and I failed because I had -3 pips at the time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks. So that's how pips work, and I spend 1 story point to flip a charm task check, which means for flipping, that is, if I rolled a 63, I get to say I rolled a 36 instead.
Yes.
And for 4 story points, make a director character past lover that still has feelings for you. The director may veto this issue, in which case the story points are returned. So we have an NPC that shows up. I go, that person was my ex-lover. And the GM goes, okay, fine, they like you.
And that is so fun when people use it in that way.
And other one I took is 6 cents. So let me go find 6 cents. There it is. So this one has no requirements on stats. It's a tier 0.
And tier 0 are abilities which have no requirements, and tier 1 has one skill as a requirement. And then there are tier 2 abilities which has another ability as a requirement on tier 0, tier 1. And then in theory there may be a tier 3 ability which have a tier 2 ability as a requirement. So you can get these skill trees.
Awesome. So for 6 cents, intuition, 6 cents, eyes in the back of your head, whatever you call it, you have it. Story points. I spend 1 story point to drop the surprise condition and act as normal. Or I spend 1 story point to flip an investigation task, or 2 story points to note something important in a scene. The director will either notify you of one important thing or return the story point. So those are what I did. And now we go back. And so, Brandon, what about your ability?
So I've got a question. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I was actually looking at your abilities, and I was thinking that military rank would be quite important to you.
That's one I definitely had on my short list. I wasn't certain if that was something that I should take if I have moved agencies or not. And I'm kind of, a lot of people from my old agency look down at that choice, because you talked about how Scorpio is looked down by some of the bigger nations.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still, if you are an ex-military, if you are a military person, you still have that rank.
Okay, then I am totally down with that. My question to you, can you explain the difference between forensics and investigator? Because forensics just seemed like it was a worse version of Vest some ways.
Let me check.
Maybe it's the chain of evidence ability there.
It is that chain of evidence that is.
I think that is the difference, yeah.
Yeah.
So can you talk to our viewers and explain what you're talking about?
Yeah,
I didn't read those abilities.
Okay. Let's start with military rank, I think. You are a commissioned or non-commissioned officer in the armed forces, and it has the thing that you should decide on your rank. The higher your rank, the less likely it is that you will be sent on field missions. The least problematic ranks are the non-commissioned ranks, like corporals and sergeants, and then company officers, like subaltern is German rank, lieutenant and captain rank. Although field officers like major, commander, lieutenant, colonel, and colonel could work fine, especially for fighter pilots or intelligence officers. Flag or general lower ranks, like admirals and generals, are problematic unless you are retired. Then there is duty. If you are an active officer, you may be sent on missions at any time. Your superiors could be used as a patron, and patron is another concept in the game, which is basically someone who could give you a mission. Scorpio would for instance be a patron. For story points, spend 1 story point to get any soldier with the rank of private who belongs to the same armed forces as you, as a uniform that you are wearing, to obey your orders, regardless of whether you are in the chain of command or not. Spend 4 story points to get any officer from the same armed forces as your uniform to obey your orders, regardless of whether or not they are in the chain of command or not. Note that you could use the ability this way on enemy soldiers if you wear their uniform and speak their language. But the director may also ask for a subterfuge task check.
My subterfuge of 15 will be excellent. Sure.
Well, you could always yell a little louder.
Yeah. So I think that I'll grab military rank and forensics. I think with that chain of evidence, that could be kind of cool. So forensics, you're a trained forensics analyst using forensics kit. You can lift fingerprints, semen, and blood fibers, hair, and other evidence for analysis in a lab and as evidence in a court of law. Chain of evidence ability is your treatment of evidence is impeccable. Any use of the skill red tape using your evidence to convict or expose a criminal is at +2 pips. The task check for red tape doesn't have to be yours, but the evidence must link the criminal to the scene. Story points, spend 1 story point to flip an investigation or search task check if you are taking part in a forensic crime scene investigation, and spend 2 story points if you have a forensics kit to re-roll an investigation or search task check and keep the new roll. So forensics and a military rank. The military rank, I think that let me get back. Like major would probably be a rank that, he got up to the ranks where you're not really necessarily going to be going on the field missions, but now he's literally taken effectively a demotion for him, even though he gets to keep his rank, to get back out into the field to work for an agency that he hopes is going to be making the world a better place rather than a worse place he's felt has been going.
Sounds awesome. Step 4 is pick 1 complication.
Okay, so step 4, going down past skills to complications. And in complications, I think that I actually think that I'm going to choose criminal background. And can we choose 2 complications you were mentioning?
Yes, that is in the customization step. Then you can pick an extra complication and get an extra ability.
Okay, so I'm actually going to choose 2. I'm going to choose criminal background. I'm going to choose a code of honor because as a con artist and a roper, I did have a code of honor about the fact that there were certain marks I would not go after. I wasn't going to steal from grannies. I wasn't going to steal from, innocent people or victims. I was only going to screw the people that were evil and weren't getting put behind bars. Basically people that deserved to be be behind bars, but the law was letting them around it, that kind of.
Yeah, kind of the television, the Saint.
The Saint or hustle or leverage as well. I was thinking very much that. So code of honor and criminal background.
It's actually not quite that honorable.
Sorry, who's not that honorable?
The Saint in the books that the television show was based on.
Mm-hmm. So I chose code of honor and criminal background for my 2. What about you, Brandon?
I am also going with code of honor, just in that I'm seeking a path of redemption that I've at points have fallen very far, and something happened, and I'm just like, I can't do that anymore. And so I'm trying to follow, the higher path rather than, dealing with the world in a bad way. And that's part of that looking for a new hope that I am following.
I'm getting the impression that there is a quite tragic story behind your character.
I'm thinking so.
Yeah, like
distant. It sounds to me like a Stasi officer that doesn't like his job.
Yeah.
Stasi that was the East German secret police, Staatssicherheitsdienst, I think it was. And they were notorious for spying on everyone, especially East Germans. And they ran these schemes where you had to tell on just everyone, and rewarded everyone for telling on anyone else, including. They didn't really care if it was true or not. They could always investigate that later. And
That actually, what you're talking about right there, the other one that I really liked, thinking about it, which is a very important German ideal, is family honor. That, blood is so important in that German ideals. And
Mhm.
so that maybe exactly that kind of thing did happen, where all of a sudden, no matter what I had done, something turned back on my family. And that was part of what just told me, no,
Mhm.
I can't go on like this anymore. I know I've done terrible things and all, but this broke me from what it was. Even if I didn't really believe, I was not really a believer in the company line. I was an agent of that company line because it provided me with, a good life. It provided me with what I was told I needed to aspire to. And
Yeah,
then when it came back and bit my family, I'm like, yeah, I can't do that anymore.
that sounds great, and that's a great way of me to get cool stories.
Yeah.
And so after that, we go and write down our vitality, correct?
Yes.
So vitality, I believe we
But
go back to
Alice, I
that.
mean, you picked two complications: code of honor and criminal background.
Yes.
Do you want to pick a third ability as well?
Yes, I do want to pick a third ability. So for the third ability, I can choose outside of my thing as long as I follow the requirements, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, as long as I fall under the requirements. So for ability then, on the last one, I'm actually thinking that, oh gosh, Brandon, I'm turning into Sophie. I was thinking of taking actor.
Ooh.
So the question is, do I have entertainment high enough? No, I do not have entertainment high enough. So I never mind. By the way, what does the learning stand for? Does that mean we pop that up there? Because
Those.
each of these has a requirement, and then it has a learning.
Yeah, well, you get this experience ticks in this game. Each
Oh,
time you use a skill, you set a tick next to it, and you
okay.
can use those ticks to either raise the skill or to learn an ability connected to that skill. And
Okay.
that's what learning is. You can use subterfuge or entertainment to learn it. And the cost is that you need 5 of those ticks to learn the actor.
So I think I'm actually going to go with good reputation as my last, since I
Ooh.
mentioned that I am, now working for the good guys, and I also, I also was very good about being a Robin Hood style, code of honor kind of crook. So people, the people that I dealt with, I had a good reputation with. So what good reputation does is your reputation precedes you, and in a good way. Story points. Spend 1 story point to have someone introduce you with some kind of words in a social situation. Spend 2 story points to have someone
Some kind words.
Oh, yes, kind words. Spend 2 story points to have someone's good words give you a modification of +2 pips in a social. And I can spend 4 story points to have someone vouch for me to get me out of trouble, at least momentarily, only if it's not a serious crime that I'm being accused. The director may veto this and give me back my points. That seems like, hey, Scorpio comes in and says, yeah, I know that they did this kind of bad thing, but it's under our jurisdiction. So that seemed like it was a good thing to have.
It could also be one of those guys you saved.
Yep, exactly. One of the guys I saved turns out to be the head of security here at the museum that I went and tested the security on.
Exactly. Mm?
So, yeah, I'll take that. And my vitality starts at
Yes.
So my
So
vitality.
should I look at, since I grabbed 2 complications as well, should I look at a third ability?
Yes.
That one's got to be rifleman for me. This is
Ooh.
part of doing bad things that has happened, and just because I'm turning away does not mean I don't have those skills anymore. So I'm trained in the use of rifles, submachine guns, and assault rifles. I can spend a story point to flip an attack check if I'm shooting with a rifle, submachine gun, or assault rifle. And I can spend a story point to reload a rifle as a free action rather than as a main action.
Nice.
Awesome.
That could be useful if you get in a firefight.
Yep. By the
let's-
way, page 70 has my favorite piece of equipment, and I haven't even played the game.
Ooh.
But the rocket-powered scooter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that one. That was a summer project for Eloise.
Nice. Eloise is one of my favorite characters.
Oh yes.
I love her hair. I can relate.
Yeah, you have her hairstyle, definitely. Jacob did a great job with Eloise, I felt.
Yeah.
Oh yes, she was so fun to play. Let's look at vitality. Alice, You have let's see,
As a burglar
agility,
skills. Agility.
agility, and a weapon skill.
Yes, agility of 65, and my melee is 45.
Yes, then your vitality is still 6.
Okay.
Because if agility or one weapon skill is 65 plus, set vitality to 6.
Awesome.
Brandon.
I don't think I took agility.
Okay, so what is your rifle skill?
My range skill is 75.
Okay, then you also have vitality 6.
Okay.
Languages. Did anyone of you have more than 45 in language?
Nope, that's what I've got is 45 language.
Okay, you have 45.
Yep.
Okay, then it is like this. You speak English or French. English and French, sorry. If you are from a not non-English or French-speaking country, then you get that language as your mother tongue, as your native tongue. And you get French and English anyway, so you get 3 languages. And because you have 45 in languages, you get to pick another one.
So how does this math work? How do we know at what tier the benchmarks are? Is it in the book somewhere?
Yes, it is.
What page?
Page 15.
Page 15. Let me go there. And Brandon, do you want to read it out to our viewers?
Just pick one extra language if language is 45. Pick 2 extra languages if language is 65. So I would say Russian is going to be the last of those languages for me.
Does no one want Swedish?
I would love Swedish, but I think that East Germany is far more influenced, sadly, currently by the USSR.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Hey, after all, if I was going to play, I was going to do the Swedish aerial officer, the Air Force officer.
Oh, Frida's I love her. We had one person play her before my circuit was over, and it was a lot of fun.
How many story points do we start?
Yes, there is a limit of story points. You can only have 12 story points at the same time, but you start each session with 4.
Okay.
You can start a session with more than 4 points if you do some things in downtime between adventures, but you usually always start with 4.
So in the game that I played, I had a power that gave me more story points if I used it. How do I take stuff that does that as a character?
You get story points when you activate your complications, basically.
Okay.
And there is one ability, Young, I think, which can give you, which can also give you story points if you act.
Okay.
You also get story points when you roll double digits, then you get 1. When you entertain the table, when you get captured, then you get 9 points. And you spend points on what to activate your abilities. You can spend 2 points at any time to flip any task check. You can spend 2 points between 1 and 4 points to get a clue. If you're stuck, you can spend 2 points to change the world a little and 6 points to change the world a lot.
So for Code of Honor, I have Code of Honor and criminal background. So for Code of Honor, there are things that you simply do not do. It's not a matter of upbringing or politeness. It's a matter of principles of honor. Yes, it may limit your options sometimes, severely so. But if it distinguishes the civilized world from the brutes and barbarians, then so be it. Which definitely goes in line with what I was saying about myself. So story points. I gain 3 story points when a villain gets away because of my Code of Honor. I gain 3 story points for taking -2 pips modification on actions that go against my Code of Honor. And I take gain 6 story points when someone betrays my Code of Honor. And then the other one that I took was criminal background. So you are or have been a crook. Well, yeah, I was a You're known by the authorities, and if anything unruly happens, you will be the first one they blame, or at least suspect. Whether you see this as a badge of honor or a blemish on your reputation, the fact remains that, justified or not, the police are always on your heels. Story point. Gain 3 story points for having police turn up at the most inopportune moment with the director's approval. Gain 3 story points for taking -2 pip modification on a social task check scene in a scene, and gain 6 story points for being detained by the police for 1 scene. You will be released later.
Yeah, so that's basically the normal dynamics. You get 3 story points for taking a negative modifier, and you get 6 points for putting you out of the scene completely.
I had a lot of fun taking using my complications, because at the end of the scenario, I think everyone at the table was glad that I took the extra points, because it was came in very, very handy.
Yes,
very
they
awesome.
are. And this economy of story points is very important to the game. I would say that is the core of the game, and rather than the skill checks.
Good to know. So, Brandon, you've picked out your complications, correct?
Yep, I'm trying to pick out gear kits right now.
Well, can you tell people what your complications do?
Well, I've got Code of Honor just like you. And so I talked about the nature of my Code of Honor before, and then my family honor. I've gone too far. I went too far, everybody. I'm sorry. I take it back. There's one thing that matters more to you than anything else, and that is your family's good name. Without it, you would be nothing. Gain 6 story points when a family matter prevents you from taking part in an important scene. Gain 6 story points when a family matter kicks off a side story that the director incorporates into the campaign.
Cool. So, what gear kits are you looking at so far? I start with 3 to start with that I'm writing.
I think
down.
we start with 5. The archetype
Yes,
thing you gets 3, and then you pick 2 after that.
Yes, we start with 5. I'm starting with the 3 that I have base. That's what I'm talking.
Yep.
But what have you picked any of yours out yet?
Forensics kit is definitely. I'm either going to have an assault rifle or a pistol. Either way, it costs 2. It's really how concealable it is. And so even though I
cost at the moment, because that is how many story points it would cost in a planning scene to get these gear kits.
Oh, okay. So the ones that we start with, are those paid for already, or do you have to pay the story points out before you get any?
No. These gear kits that you have now, those are part of your kind of permanent gear.
Okay, then I'm going to go for the pistol, even though I'm a rifle specialist. I can always get a rifle if I shoot somebody with a pistol. And the pistol's a lot easier to walk around.
Yes, and as a part of your uniform, that would probably not be too suspicious either.
Yeah, that was kind of the reason that even though I took something to be good with rifles, I'm like, the pistol's a bit better.
Yeah.
It could be that we come to a planning scene and you say that, okay, we need a rifle for this operation.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend 2 points or whatever it was for, and to get the rifle for this scene.
So for me, I start with a lockpick, a flashlight, and binoculars. I'm looking at taking a dinner jacket for my 4th, and well, I mean, it matches what I'm talking about.
I see the dinner jacket. I had the, Bond and the tuxedo and such
Yeah.
in the dinner jacket. And then I'm going to get the dinner jacket, so then I put your character in the dinner jacket.
We have an example, actually, of Frida who took the dinner jacket but replaced it with a parade uniform.
Nice.
And I think that I want to take a sports car. Well, I guess in this case, it's going to be a racing car. Yeah, I'll take the sports car. So I'll take the sports car because, I'm a little bit on the flashy side. So sports car. So for my 3 that I start with, so each of these, we should tell our viewers, has a power behind. So for lock picks, let's start with my lock picks.
Yes, so they would
give me a plus 2 pips when picking lock. So this means if I rolled a 92, I would still succeed, or a 91, I'd still succeed because my lock picks are just that good.
Yep.
Flashlight, I have spotting things in the dark will give me plus 2 pips for that.
Yep.
Binoculars, there they are. Spotting things at a distance will give me plus 2 pips. Then we go to dinner jacket, one of the 2 that I actually chose, because and impressions at formal occasions gives me plus 2 pips. And sports car, car phase, travel and style plus 2 pips. Car chases and travel and style give me plus 2 pips. So that's how it works. Also, go ahead, Brandon.
No, you finish.
I was just going to mention, it's important to note in this game that you can, if you get multiple sources of pips, you don't actually add them together, if I recall. So if I have something that gives me plus 2 pips and then something that gives me plus 3 pips, I take the plus 3 pips, not the plus 2. They don't get to plus 5, correct? Based on my memory?
If the modifications come from different sources, completely, I mean, you can have one gear kit modifier and you can have one circumstances modifier, and these can stack up. But
how high can you stack to?
Like, for instance, say that I give you a minus 2 pip modifier because it's a gravel road. Then that is a situation-based modifier. So that's okay to stack with your plus 2 modifier from the car chase.
So let's say that I get a situation modifier of 3 and I had an item of 3. I could get a total of plus 6?
Yes.
Okay. That's different than I remembered, so I'm really glad we clarified. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So they do stack if
But
they're
you
from
can't
different
use,
sources.
like, for instance, flashlight and binoculars, because those would both be from the gear kit.
Okay, good to know.
And you only use one of them.
Awesome.
So, as a question for these 5 items, is it 5 cost worth of items, or is it 5 actual
5
different
items. 5 gear
items.
kit.
Okay. So for me, I am grabbing my forensics kit,
Yep.
since that is something pretty important in my character. I've got power that really only works when I've got one. I'm going with the pistol, an electronics kit, and let me go over some of these. So where am I? Electronics toolbox. It's got basically what you would need, including like wires and such. And so jury rigging, creating, or repairing electronics plus 2 pips. My forensics kit. It's got, everything that a police officer would have in a little bag. And so forensics investigation and documentation is plus 2 pips. Then my overnight bag is going to be, it's everything you'd want if you're going on the next day. You've got underwear, you've got toothbrush, shoes, all that kind of stuff. And so comfortable overnight travel plus 2 pip. The pistol, I see that there's several different ones. And so which one I end up picking will affect how it works. But it's probably going to be the handgun or the heavy handgun, I would think. And so ranged combat, damage 5dx, loud, short range, and reload on a 9 or a 0. I'm assuming that's if one of the dice that you're shooting with comes up as a 9 or a 0.
Yes.
Okay.
The ones actually, and if that happens, then then the magazine is out, and you have to spend 1 action to reload it.
Gotcha. That's I've seen other games that do it in a similar fashion. That let's not track ammo. Let's just kind of run. When are you going to run out? Because at that point you're like, oh, I'm not certain. And then the last one,
situation, you won't shoot. You won't keep track on your shots. Actually,
yeah. And the last one, I'm going to get a motorcycle, so that I don't have to rely on her sports car, and that gives me plus. No, that's moped. Motorcycle is heavy traffic plus 2 pips.
Yep.
Awesome. And sounds like we're done with our gear. So the last thing we need to do is choose our plot hooks. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And these. The plot hooks is a mechanism for getting you into the adventure quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I design an adventure, and I design like 4 or 5 plot hooks, which each would have a startup handout, which I can give to you to get the adventure going. If you have a group of, say, 4 players, and each one picks 1 or 2, preferably 2 plot hooks, then there would automatically be an overlap between the plot hooks that I create and the plot hooks that you have. So
So where on the character sheet does it go? Because I could not find it anywhere on the past.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the photo page.
Bottom of the photo page. Let me go back.
Yeah,
to
there's
that
a little line called plot hooks.
of the photo page. Yes, there we
Yes.
go. Thank you very much.
And there are 11 plot hooks to pick from, and these are my pages in a booklet that is not made for flipping in.
So
There are arch enemy, the octopus, which means that this evil organization, the octopus, is your arch enemy, and they are yours, and you are theirs, I should say. Do-gooder. You can't help others, especially those that nobody else can help. You don't have to help everyone, but sometimes there's nobody there to help except you. Exile. You left your homeland long ago. There are still ties left. On top of that, your former homeland security services are still looking for. Sometimes they urge you to come back, sometimes force, and sometimes there are others with similar fate to yours. Foreign. You are not from here, but from another place, with a distinctly non-European culture. But that doesn't stop you. You find everything in your new homeland quite exciting. It's so weird. This has a tendency to get you in more adventure than you bargained for. Friends in high places. Having friends in high places is nice. It's get you places. But friendship is a two-edged sword. Sometimes they come to you to get your help with some of their problems. I owe you. You owe someone a big favor. One day, that someone or someone they know will call it in, and that will undoubtedly lead to new and exciting adventures. Looking for a case. Some people make a living of solving other people's troubles. Some people make a living of reporting on other people's troubles. Some people are just nosy bodies. Looking for an adventure. A mundane life is not for you. You want to push the boundaries, press into the unknown. You are the type that sails solo around the world, climbs the highest peaks, treks across the wildest wilderness, skis to the poles, whatever isn't the modern civilized boring everyday life. Looking for the past. Europe and the world has a long history that sometimes resurfaces. You have an interest in the past, and sometimes the past has an interest in you. Either case can unexpectedly lead to adventures. Media darling, you're constantly in the limelight. This not only means constant coverage in magazines and the news, but also that you often know reporters and journalists. And finally, Secret Service. Europe is a
That's
hotbed
me.
for spies. Yeah, everyone spies on everybody, including allies like the Americans, the Germans, the British, heck, even the Scandinavians. You're one of them, an agent in a secret government service. Most of the time, you just report and try to recruit people. Sometimes your masters have other assignments.
Awesome.
And nobody should have the same plot hooks.
The two plot
That-
hooks I chose were IOU and Looking for a Case. What about you, Brandon? What two did you choose other than I heard that you chose-
Looking for a Case is like one of my second number one after Secret Service.
Nice.
And I
Okay.
can probably
And
find.
one of you will have picked something else than looking for a case.
Okay. I can choose Looking for an Adventure instead, Brandon. That would fit me just as well. So Looking for Adventure.
Okay.
So what is your second, Brandon? Secret Service?
Secret Service, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at like that as kind of a mix of the Secret Service and Friends in High Places. Is that I have left them, but nobody chooses to get out of this kind of business,
Yep,
and so that
exactly.
they're always kind of pulling you back in, and so that I've got some of that I'm able to leverage. The same thing as my uniform. I have that relationship, but because I have that ability, they're gonna at times tell me I have to do things, and
Yep.
I have to
Officially, you're-
negotiate that morally.
Yeah, officially you're lent to the Scorpio, but you're still a Stasi officer.
Yep.
And that's all it takes to make a character, correct?
Well, there's actually two little more things.
Oh, let's keep going then. What else?
Step 9, design your characters. Find 2 or 3 characteristics that an artist would always focus on when drawing your character. And we can do this by rolling dice and just see what we get, or you can pick things that you like.
I rolled some dice earlier and also put on some of my own, just because of the image that I had. I rolled up narrow face and a red item, so I went with a red shirt, which definitely seems, very, very comic booky in that European, the French, and I forget the other country that you were saying the genre comes from. But just so therefore you're very identifiable. Then I put on a leather jacket on top of that because that kind of went with the image, and also the motorcycle I liked because that gives me the literal leather jacket, and a 5 o'clock shadow on him, that he's not a clean-shaven youth. So that's what I went with for the characteristics.
Yep. Alice,
Okay.
do you want to roll dice, or do you want to make up things?
I think I'm gonna go for making it up. Well, actually, you know what? I might end up being a female character if I roll. So I'll roll. Let's go for that. So
I did roll another one and I rolled it twice, and you only have a 1% chance of rolling it, but it did not go with the image that I was working on, and it was scrawny. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be scrawny, and it came up twice, and I had to throw it out twice.
Yeah, so the first one that comes up for me is a 93, which is uniform. Given the history that I have, I don't think a uniform fits at all. So I'm going to roll again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go, that turns into 63. So for 63, I have round glasses. So with round glasses, I'm going to go with high cheekbones and a skinny face.
You can't take a skinny face. I have a skinny. Oh no, I have a narrow face.
You have a narrow face.
That's a totally different thing.
Totally.
Sure. So yeah, and I'm going to go with a pinstripe jacket because I have a dinner coat that I always wear. Yep, that's my dinner jacket. Pinstripe jacket. So those are the features that would always be focused on.
Oh, good. And then finally, how did you meet? Or rather, should I say, the usual way that you do this, it's one person roll a location somewhere in the world and spin a tale of how that person met one of the other players.
Okay.
Then the second player rolls another place in the world and spin a tale of how the two first persons met the third one, and so on.
So, Brandon, why don't you roll first?
Oh, we're
D100.
rolling?
Yeah, D100. I have the
Since
chart.
since there are just two people here today, then there will be just one roll.
Okay.
I got a 22. What is with me in doubles? Dublin, Ireland.
We met in Dublin, Ireland. So how did we meet in Dublin, Ireland, since you rolled?
I think that's probably after I am out of East Germany that I am teamed up with Scorpio, and probably was investigating you that all of these strange Catwoman burglaries, or perhaps for you went with male in the end, and can't think of a.
I'm a
super
con
famous
artist. I'm the
male.
roper. So think
You're
about
the roper?
yeah, Albert. So I'd be like
Sure.
Albert.
That all of this wealthy European nobility that has been conned out of their money, and that I was sent after you, and brought you was able to bring you in through, I'm certain, quite a number of hijinks, got me into scams and such along the way.
I
But,
only sold the London Bridge twice.
Is it falling down?
It's falling down.
We need to renovate. This is money for the renovation,
Yeah.
and you will get a plaque up there. They will build a statue of your majestic form on top
Exactly.
of the London Bridge.
Yep, I only sold the London Bridge twice.
And so, but going with that, me searching for a better way, a new leaf, that I saw the good in you. If only you could find a cause like I currently have. Nothing like a born again Christian, and so
Totes.
that I was able to talk them into leniency and to get you hooked up with Scorpio.
Awesome.
That sounds great. Do you have a title for this comic book?
What'd you come up with your name, Alice?
My comic book, my character's name. Let me go find it again. I think I went with Jean Doran.
I am Heinrich Mueller. So I don't know if you've got any good comic book names out of that.
The case of the London Bridge not falling down or falling down. Case of the London Bridge.
Yeah, could work.
Okay.
It could make an entire series of these adventures. The case of, and then
Yep. Case of, like Hardy
mean-
Boys or Nancy Drew. Suddenly.
exactly. So that's how you make a character.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for walking us through it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great fun.
It was.
Yeah. We can go with case of, or we could do since we came from crossing lines,
Uh-huh.
you don't want to necessarily pull just on that, but since you talked about London Bridge and bridged connections or something,
Mhm.
in that both of us are kind of starting over
Yeah.
and such. So
That sounds good too.
The man from Uncle has the London Affair or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. London Affair.
But
or
yes,
the
the
Great
Man
London
from
Sale.
Uncle. I'm pretty certain it's the new Man from Uncle movie was one of the inspirations on the image that just came to my mind
Yep.
for the character I was making. So
Well, thank you all for watching.
I need to watch it again.
Bye.
And Kingsman, Alice. Let's
Yes.
watch those.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
Such a good one.
Hey Blades! Thank you so much for watching another Babies with Knives video. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and come join the conversation in our Discord server.
If you want to keep content like this coming, come check out our Patreon and consider subscribing. All links for this is provided in the description below. And remember, come back next time to get honed.